I didn't notice the tension when we first arrived. That's probably the problem. I've gotten used to filtering things out before they fully register. The park was already crowded, families staking out space like small territories. My mother had chosen a table under partial shade, the kind that shifts every few minutes so no one is fully comfortable. She waved us over with the same expression she's always had at gatherings, something between obligation and control. My son stayed close to me, one hand hooked lightly around my fingers. He's not shy in other places, just here. I set the containers down, greeted people in the order expected of me, and tried to read the room. My oldest daughter had already noticed something. She always does. She gave me a look I couldn't fully interpret, then went back to arranging plates. It was all ordinary at first. Food being passed. Small comments about the weather, someone laughing too loudly at something that wasn't that funny. My son didn't speak much, but he rarely does in these settings. He watched, he listened. I told myself that was enough. The comment came in the middle of nothing. No buildup, no argument. Just a gap in conversation that my mother filled without looking directly at me. Next time, don't bring the kid. She said it while adjusting something on her plate, like she was pointing out a missing spoon. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Not because it was unclear, but because it fit too easily into things she'd said before. Just softened enough that I could pretend it wasn't the same. No one reacted. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the words themselves, but the absence around them. My brother reached for a drink. My aunt leaned back in her chair. Someone asked about traffic too quickly. I felt my son's hand loosen from mine. I looked at him then. Really looked. He hadn't turned toward her. He hadn't asked what she meant. He just pulled inward, shoulders slightly curved, eyes lowered, not in shame exactly, but in preparation. Like he already knew where to place himself when something like that was said, and I didn't say anything. I wish I could tell you there was confusion, that I needed time to process. But it wasn't that. It was recognition. I'd been here before in smaller ways. Comments that didn't quite land, or landed and were immediately covered by something else. I told myself it wasn't the moment to make it bigger, that starting something here in front of everyone would only make things worse. So I adjusted my posture, reached for a container, acted like I hadn't heard it clearly enough to respond. That's the part that stayed with me later. Not the silence itself, but how easily I stepped into it. The sound of the chair came a few seconds after. Not loud, just wrong for the rhythm of everything else. My daughter stood up. She didn't rush. She didn't look at me first. She looked directly at my mother, steady in a way that made the rest of the table pause without knowing why. Say that again. Her voice wasn't raised. If anything, it was too even. My mother glanced up, so surprised in a way I hadn't seen before. What you just said, my daughter replied. About him. There was no accusation in her tone. That's what made it harder to deflect. She wasn't reacting. She was asking for clarity. My mother shifted slightly in her seat. I didn't mean it like that. You're taking it the wrong way. Then say it the right way, my daughter said. No one moved. The conversation that had been trying to restart a moment ago stopped completely, like it had been waiting for permission. I could feel the weight of it now. Not just the comment, but the expectation that it would pass like the others had. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. For once, there wasn't an easy correction, no softer version waiting behind the first. It was just a joke, she said finally, but it didn't land anywhere. My daughter didn't respond immediately. She let the space sit there, long enough that the word joke felt thin. He heard you, she said after a moment. That's the part that matters. My son hadn't looked up yet. But I saw his attention shift, not outward, but inward, like he was recalibrating something. I still didn't speak. That realization came to me in the middle of everything else, that I was watching my daughter do something I hadn't managed to do myself. Not louder, not harsher, just clearer. Around the table, people started to move again, but differently. My aunt adjusted her seat, not to avoid the tension, but to acknowledge it. My brother didn't reach for anything this time. He just sat there. My mother exhaled, a small, controlled breath. I didn't realize it sounded that way, she said. Quieter now. It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was the first time I'd heard uncertainty in her voice at one of these gatherings. My daughter nodded once, like she'd heard enough. Then she sat back down, pulling her chair in without ceremony. No one picked up the earlier conversation. When people spoke again, it was slower, more careful. Like something fragile had been introduced, and no one wanted to be the one to break it further. My son eventually let go of my hand completely. Not to pull away, but because he didn't need to hold on as tightly. That was the only visible change in him. The rest of the afternoon passed without incident, but it didn't return to what it had been before. The ease was gone. In its place was something quieter, more deliberate. When we packed up to leave, my mother hugged me the same way she always does. But there was a pause before she let go, like she was measuring something she hadn't noticed before. In the car, no one brought it up. My daughter put her headphones on and looked out the window. My son sat in the back, not withdrawn this time, just still. I kept thinking about the moment I chose not to speak, and the moment she did, it didn't feel like defiance. It felt like a correction of something that had been left unaddressed for too long. That night, when my son walked into the house, he didn't hesitate at the doorway the way he sometimes does after family gatherings. He didn't look at me first to read the room. He just went inside. I'm still not sure what that means for us. For me, but I know the next time something like that happens, silence won't feel as neutral as it used to.